All right. Grace, mercy, and peace from him who is and was and is to come very soon. I'm certain. This is Rogue Diabetic, and welcome to the Digital Wilderness. All right, you guys. So today we're going to take a look at some of these questions, some of the answers to a few of these questions that I asked here recently on Quora. So, but before that, I'm going to give you guys the gospel real quick. All right, you guys. So this is it. Peter 3:13 through 22. And who is he who will harm you if you become followers of what is good? But even if you should suffer for righteousness' sake, you are blessed. And do not be afraid of their threats, nor be troubled, but sanctify the Lord God in your hearts, and always be ready to give a defense to everyone who asks you a reason for the hope that is in you with meekness and fear. Having a good conscience, that when they defame you as evildoers, those who revile your good conduct in Christ may be ashamed. For it is better, if it is the will of God, to suffer for doing good than for doing evil. For Christ also suffered once for sins, the just for the unjust, that he might bring us to God, being put to death in the flesh, but made alive by the Spirit, by whom also he went and preached to the spirits in prison, whom formerly were disobedient, when once the divine long-suffering waited in the days of Noah, while the ark was being prepared, in which a few, that is, 8 souls, were saved through water. There is also an antitype which now saves us, baptism, not the removal of the filth or the flesh, but the answer of a good conscience towards God, through the resurrection of Jesus Christ, who is gone into heaven and is at the right hand of God, angels and authorities and powers having been made subject to him. So, here it is. You're a sinner. Okay, you've sinned. But, as this verse describes, Jesus suffered once for sins, the just for the unjust, that he might bring us to God. So if you believe this and you're baptized, then you're saved. Okay, then you're saved from your sin. Because otherwise, but if you reject that, then you burn in hell forever. Okay, so don't reject it. Accept it. All right, so let's get back to the task at hand. So we're going to take a look at a few of these questions that I asked and some of the answers that I've been getting. So this one here, does anyone believe Hamas attacked Israel? Now we'll get to this one in a second. But this is pretty typical of the kind of answer you'll get to a question like this. Now when you ask a stupid question, you get a stupid answer, right? And so it's kind of like these loaded questions that I ask on Quora. I'm like, I'll concede that that's what we call the question that I ask is what we call a loaded question. But this is typical of the type of response. Please seek psychiatric attention. So that doesn't like it's ad hom is what it is. Okay, they just insult you because they don't want to actually examine make a good faith effort to answer the question. Okay, because as soon as you do, it leads you down into trails. Okay. And here's another one. Should Benjamin Netanyahu be given the electric chair for his crimes against Christians in Gaza? Okay, and this is a pretty typical response to a question like this. Hamas uses Gaza women and children as human shields when they shoot their rockets and guns at Israeli civilians. Okay, so that's a pretty typical response. That it's like, but it's like that's not how it works. That's not how it's supposed to work. Okay, even if you can't murder innocent people because someone else murdered you. Okay, and there's like, but I mean, really, so, but and again, this answer is predicated on the belief that Israel attacked the allegation that Israel or that Hamas attacked Israel, and that's what we're going to take a closer look at, of whether this attack really happened. Was the Challenger disaster a make-believe fraud? This guy says no, and I said that's not what I've heard. And how did Hamas get hang gliders and rifles to attack Israel? Okay, now this is an example of a question that's neutrally phrased. Okay, it doesn't get as much response. It won't get as much response. But this is a legitimate question that they can't answer, and then immediately, and even when it's phrased like that neutrally, it puts them. They immediately go on the defensive. So let's take a look at the obvious answer. Why would it be obvious? Is that they were smuggled into Gaza from Iran after careful planning of the raid on October 7th. I mean, okay, so here's the problem with this. Iran doesn't share a border with Israel or the United States. Try again. Okay, so this guy said it doesn't need to. Why do you think there are so many U.S. military installations in both Iraq and Syria? They are watching the arms traffic moving to Hezbollah and points south from Iran. By the way, what does the U.S. have to do with sharing borders? Yeah, I don't know exactly why I was mentioned that Israel doesn't share a border with the United States, or that Iran doesn't. But the point I was trying to make is that Iran does not share a border with Israel. And so if you're talking about, so I don't know, is this guy trying to say that they're coming in from Iran through Iraq to Syria to Lebanon? Hezbollah is in Lebanon. I don't know if Hezbollah has I don't know if Hezbollah has a presence in Syria. They do in Lebanon. So let's take a little closer look into that. All right. So does Israel control Hamas? No, I don't have that. Does Israel have nuclear weapons? No, I don't ask that. They do. Not that nukes might not be real. Does Israel believe in Jesus? No, not most of them. Does Israel recognize Palestine? No. Does Israel have free healthcare? No. There's no free healthcare. Nobody has free healthcare. That's preposterous. So check this out. I mean, somebody has to pay for it, right? It's not free. Maybe people can get healthcare in Israel without paying themselves for their own healthcare, but they probably either have to pay taxes or buy health insurance. So this whole idea that like healthcare is free anywhere is absurd. But anyway, what we want to know is, does Israel share a border with Lebanon? We'll do Lebanon. Okay, so this is Iran. See this country right here? See Iran. Okay. And this country right here is Iraq. And this country right here is Turkey. They used to be Turkey, but they changed the name. Or at least the spelling. I don't know if you still pronounce it Turkey. And they just changed the spelling to Turkiye. And put the dots above the U. That nobody in English uses anyway. But anyway, okay, so you would have to go through Iraq, Syria. And it looks like Israel might share a border. See, there's some of this stuff is like kind of flaky. This all up here used to be like technically Palestine. Back with the old, like, if you go back to 1948. But that's called the Golan Heights up there. So that they've basically driven like the Palestinians out of that now and taken it over, and basically, or like sovereignty, like officially during the Trump administration, the Israel gained sovereignty over the Golan Heights. So apparently there's a border. It shares a border with Lebanon, Syria, Jordan. So if they came through, if these weapons, I'm thinking is that he's implying that they're coming through Iraq and Syria. So would they be? Are they bringing them across the Syrian border? And once again, I don't know if Hezbollah has a presence in Syria. I do know that they have a presence in Lebanon, and Lebanon shares a border with Israel and Syria. So, but you're talking about like you're talking about they would need to be moving these weapons, these hang gliders and rifles across, at least two borders. First across the Iraqi border. And maybe Iraqi is cool with that. I don't know. But if we have a presence in Iraq, we should be able to stop them from continuing through to Syria. And we should be able to continue to stop these hang gliders and rifles from coming through, right? Through that way. And then if we weren't able to, and by we I mean the United States of America, but if we weren't able to stop it, then Israel should be able to stop it at their border. Now, when you get really deep into the weeds on this, the claim is there's a tunnel. So let's take a look at. Okay, so let's say they're coming through. I mean, if they're coming through Syria, they're going to have to go around this lake up here. This was the Sea of Galilee. Okay, that's where Jesus used to live. And tunnel all the way under all of this. All the way down to the Gaza Strip. Okay, if they weren't tunneling, all that way, they would have to physically cross. They would have to above the ground cross this border up here if they're coming in from Syria. If these weapons are coming in from Syria. Now, I think realistically, the more standard claim is that they're coming through tunnels from Egypt. Okay, but that's absolutely absurd. And let me show you why. Okay, so we're gonna take a look at this Wikipedia article. It's called Gaza Strip Smuggling Tunnels. Okay, they can't come, the weapons, the hang gliders and the rifles can't come through anything. This is the only way. This is the only place where it would be any remotely possible. And it would be a feat of engineering. Okay, an incredible feat of engineering. It isn't something that, you couldn't build even a tunnel, under the Rafah crossing without the knowledge or consent of both Egypt and Israel. There's no way. Let alone tunnel all the way under the entire length of Israel from Syria, or to tunnel from Jordan to the east. I mean, it's just you guys got to start using your brains. I mean, that would take money. It would take time. It would take labor. It would take a lot of engineering. It would take like I say, it would be a feat of engineering. You would need specialized equipment to build the kind of tunnels that they claim exist. Oh my God. Oh my God. Sorry, God. Sorry, I didn't mean to take your name in vain, God. I love you. Please forgive me. Oh my goodness. Israel restricts the importation of construction materials into the strip to prevent their use for military purposes by Hamas. As a result, concrete and other construction materials were some of the main goods smuggled through the tunnels. You would need concrete to make the tunnels in the first place. So these tunnels have to be originating somewhere outside of Gaza. And the only place that could be is the only place that's even remotely plausible is near Rafah. So this is an alleged entry of a Gaza smuggling tunnel. This picture right here, that's not what that is. Who knows what that is? That could be just a hallway in a building above the ground. There's no way that you can verify that that's the entry of a Gaza smuggling tunnel. And if it were, you're talking about, it's got a roof. It's got a poured roof, it looks like. That would be, in order to do something like that, you would need money, you would need equipment, You would need manpower. Okay, the child labor wouldn't cut it. Okay, the tunnels are normally dug by individual contractors from basements of houses or an olive grove under the border at depths of up to 30 meters or 100 feet and reaching up to 800 meters. Okay, so that's almost a kilometer. That's just short of a kilometer. Okay, or about half a mile. Okay, in many cases, the owners of the houses enter into a business agreement with the tunnel builders. They may receive a. So these are underneath houses? Get out of here. There's no way. You would have to build like some sort of like industrial type building. Like we used to call them Morton buildings. They're basically these big sheds that farmers park their tractors in and stuff and use as storage out in the rural areas of the United States. You would have to have a shed. You would have to have like a warehouse on top of these tunnels to be able to smuggle anything through them. Otherwise you'd be having like trucks making deliveries. We're talking about rockets and hang gliders to these houses, and guns and rifles, ARs or M16s or whatever it is they're said to use. You would have to be you would be able to there's no way. There's no way you would be able to conceal that for any long length of time. While many tunnels are of a generally high quality of engineering and construction, with some including electricity, ventilation, intercoms, and a rail system, you have got to be fucking shitting me. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm sorry for the language, but that's absurd. They're still very dangerous and prone to cave-ins. The openings of the several tunnels are found within buildings in or around Gaza's southernmost city of Rafah. This doesn't make any sense. Okay, so here's the thing, you guys. Here's the punchline. In October 2014, days after an attack with which 33 Egyptian soldiers were killed, 33. So there's their magic number 33. Egypt announced it may create a buffer zone between Palestinian Rafah and Egyptian Rafah. So, I mean, cutting the town in two was stupid to begin with. They should have just left it all in Egypt or all of it in Gaza, one or the other. That would have made it easier to secure. Initial width of the buffer zone was 500 meters. Okay, not 800 meters, but 500 meters. But on November 8th, 2014, Egypt said it would expand it to 1 kilometer. On the 29th of December 2014, the buffer zone was extended to 5 kilometers. Okay, so you're not talking about 800 meters is already strains credulity. So now you're talking about a 5 kilometer buffer zone on the Egypt side. That doesn't include the buffer zone that's on the Israeli side. There's at least this 5 kilometer wide buffer zone. So you would have to start digging the tunnel, and it would have to go 5 kilometers at least to get into Gaza. Okay, and then if you popped it right, it would have to go deeper than that if you're going to try to conceal it. Okay, there's no fucking tunnels, you guys. Stop being stupid. Okay, that's not and even if there were, that's not an excuse. That's not justification to murder people that don't have anything to do with it. So I love you guys. Like, share, subscribe, click the notification bell. Tell me what you think in the comments. I'm out.